Hello, this is Team Enset in Ethiopia. My name is Drew Brennan. Today, you will hear a presentation by myself, Maximilian Khan, Lila Childs, George Enelow, and Mason Keeffe. Thank you for tuning in.
Hi, so I'm going to just provide a little bit of background about what Enset is. It's a fibrous plant that is a relative to the banana plant, and it's extremely high in carbohydrates and fiber. These two attributes make it a really great source of food for both humans and animals, and the fiber accounts for its ability to be used as construction materials. And the plant also has many medicinal qualities as well. Not only does it have a very not only does it serve multiple purposes, but it's also very resilient and versatile in terms of its ability to withstand sort of more severe weather climates. And lastly, the Enset plant feeds between 15 and 20 million people in the southern highlands of Ethiopia, making it a really great plant to invest in. And so, going off of this, for my module, I focused on agricultural production resources and productivity. And agriculture is really the foundation of Ethiopia's economy since around 85% of their population lives in rural areas. They have a really strong knowledge and foundation in farming. Aside from cereal crops, the Enset plant is one of Ethiopia's primary crop yields, and like I said before, feeds up to 20 million people in the southern highlands. The plant is very well in rich soil with an alkaline pH and lower bacteria levels. With this in mind, soils high in bacteria actually are one of the leading causes to Enset crop failure. Um, and also due to its preferred high altitude growing climate, resources are limited and are more hard to reach, which makes the Enset plant less widely available to the rest of the population. And production and harvesting of the plant is being done by a majority of the women throughout the villages, therefore making it harder for outside factory intervention to begin um, sort of automation of the Enset plant.
So, as important as the production process of Enset is the infrastructure surrounding how Enset gets the rest of the people of Ethiopia. So, you can divide that into three segments, which are financial services, storage systems, and agricultural information systems. So, financial services are used to enable farmers to purchase the items they need to grow the crops they have. Storage systems are as simple as they sound. They allow farmers to store what they have, and for also merchants to store what they have received slash traders. And agricultural information systems are able to educate all people throughout the chain on what are the most current trending prices, what things should be sold for, where things are needed, how much is in circulation. And so with that, there are financial services available through MyAgro and eSoko as they are the most popular. Storage systems include warehouses that are located throughout the country. And then for specifically NSAID, it is most popularly stored in the ground before sold off. And then for agriculture information services, eSoak was once again a great service. And with the warehouses, there is a system in place that uses something called warehouse receipt system.
So for my module, I focused on the increasing the market input and output for smallholder farmers in Ethiopia who farm Enset. So in terms of input, there is hardly a need for any more external inputs. Once the Enset roots have grown, Enset fields are able to sustain themselves for decades without any external inputs. Enset is a highly sustainable crop. It causes far less soil erosion and nutrient depletion of soil than other cereal crops such as maize. And it is also very drought resistant. Its molecular structure allows it to hold water for an extended period of time and provide water for neighboring plants. In terms of output, this is where we can see a lot of very important interventions on the agricultural value chain. One of the biggest threats to NSET currently is bacteria and pest. So one bacteria on Enset you can see on the middle left image there, bacterial wilt. Bacterial wilt gets on the Enset through improper sanitation of harvesting and processing tools. So one way that we can control the bacterial wilt is by educating farmers on proper sanitary procedures. One way to deal with pests currently, a short-term solution would be, you can see on the bottom right there, the trap that is used to kill moles. Moles kill a lot of Enset plants. Improving machinery is also one way that we can increase output. A lot of farmers currently do not have access to machinery, and if they were able to, they would have a significant reduction in labor costs, and they can spend that money on improving their well-being. Enset is currently used for 85% of the animal feed in the Bale Highlands of Ethiopia. You can see in the top right picture there, those are all the properties of the Enset that is used for animal feed. Another very underutilized aspect of Enset is the Enset fibers. So these agrofibers have higher density and are far lighter than other agrofibers such as banana. They're currently in Ethiopia. Enset is viewed as a poor man's food, and there's a need for Enset to be utilized in an urban market.
So I will be talking about infrastructure, investment, and trade. First of all, infrastructure is extremely important to consider when we're looking into improving food security for people in Ethiopia. So transportation in particular has been historically very bad and a big issue to overcome for Ethiopians, especially when it comes to roads and highways. For example, in 2012, there were over 36,000 kilometers of roadways, but less than 7,000 kilometers of those roadways were actually paved. So this obviously puts a lot of wear and tear on vehicles, making transportation of crops and goods for smallholder farmers extremely costly and takes quite a bit of time. During that transportation, you also see some significant losses of harvest, as well as just any other post-harvest losses. For example, in 2003, there were $4.2 million of post-harvest losses for smallholder farmers across Ethiopia. This is due mostly to either spoilage due to lack of refrigeration or losses due to pests. Next thing I'm going to talk about is investment, both domestic and foreign. So we've seen in the past decade and a half some significant increases in investment from the government in Ethiopia that has been driven by their goal to industrialize and increase manufacturing. To the right here, you can see one of their largest projects, the Grand Renaissance Dam, which is a $4.7 billion hydroelectric project. And that's been funded almost completely by Ethiopian. Next thing is foreign direct investment, or FDI. That is been driven by countries looking to outsource labor so that they can import goods from Ethiopia. An example of this is a 750-kilometer railway that has been invested in by China, and that will stretch from Addis Ababa, the capital city of Ethiopia, to the port of Djibouti, where goods can then be shipped. Finally, I'm going to talk about trade. As you can see all these numbers here, there's actually been a decrease in both exports and imports in Ethiopia since 2013, going to 2018. And while this might seem kind of counterintuitive, as they've begun industrializing, there's good reason behind this. First of all, the decrease in exports is due to depressed commodity prices, mostly, and the decrease in imports can be attributed to a greater domestic production of goods and self-reliance. And then here you can see some cool graphics that actually show that even though Ethiopia has begun industrializing, they are still mostly reliant on agriculture for their exports, yet their imports have started moving towards machinery and equipment, as you can see here with planes, helicopters, and spacecraft, gas turbines, and such. So it'll be interesting to see how these exports and imports are continuing to develop in the coming years.
So I'll be talking about the recent developments and forecast of Enset going forward. So as Drew mentioned a little bit, the investments have been there's been a lot of investments in the public recently, and that have had a very poor focus. This has increased the need or caused inclusive growth in the economy. So despite a 7% increase in the agricultural sector, agricultural productivity is actually one of the lowest in sub-Saharan Africa. So in order to help this out, farmers are moving away from subsistence agriculture and moving towards commercial farming. This is done with modern farming practices and other technologies that are coming about. So Enset has been looked down upon from people outside of the Southern Highlands, where Enset is mainly grown. People have viewed it as inferior to other grain crops that are grown, and there's a stigma around it. As people view it as sort of a poor person food. But in recent years, as the population has increased and climate change has come about, people are starting to realize the benefits that Enset can provide. Arba Minch University has created an Enset Park that will provide farmers with the tools necessary to start growing Enset, as well as exposure from scientists and economists. People are slowly starting to realize the potential that Enset truly has, and hopefully Enset will continue to grow as the years go on.
So this brings us into the question of what's next for Enset in Ethiopia.
So here we have 3 recommendations to overall make Ethiopia a better country with everything that's going on and all the farmers and all the tech that's in place. So we have 3 points to get through. One is we need better refrigeration, and we're going to do that through having solar panels bought up cheaply from other countries such as the United States that have obsolete technology, say 20% efficiency rather than the modern 40% efficiency. Have partnership with the Ethiopia government, and then subsidize that to farmers. And a similar approach with smartphones for our second point, but with India, as they have a huge market for use smartphones. And then for our third point, to implement a transportation subscription service, again, subsidized partially through the government to merchant hubs, to farmers, to where farmers are now able to actually subscribe to trucks and transportation that are able to be scheduled to come to their farm to take their crops rather than walk to a hub or use their animals to take to a hub, and really ensure that their goods are quickly transported to where they need to go and are as fresh as possible all throughout the supply chain.
So thank you for listening. We are Team Enset Ethiopia, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts and your comments.